Hello, all you cool cats and kittens. Welcome back to another episode of the Wild Wellness Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about a little bit of a controversial subject in the health and wellness space. At the moment, I see a lot of this going around, and I wanted to touch on it because I do have some experience with it. I do have some thoughts on it. And what we're going to be talking about is cycle syncing. If you have no idea what that is, it's probably because you're a man or you have no idea anything about your menstrual cycle, so you're in the right place right now. I love periods, and I'm not ashamed to say that, and you should love periods just as much as I do. So sit back, relax, get a high-protein snack, and we're going in for a wild ride today. So what is cycle syncing anyways, Haley? Well, let me tell you what it is. So I first discovered cycle syncing way back when I was a little fetus baby. In the gym. I remember so vividly. I was scrolling on my Audible because I was a newly user and I freaking love Audible. This is not sponsored, though I wish it was. I love audiobooks, and I came across one because I didn't have my period for 4 years and I was trying to find a way to get it back, and I came across this book called Woman Code, and there's another one called In the Flow by Elisa Vitti. And she kind of created this whole term of cycle syncing. And what it means is just living in accordance to whatever phase you are in your cycle. And I thought this was this magic potion that would get my period back. Newsflash, it didn't. And you know what did? Eating more and exercising a little bit less intensely. So if you're struggling with your period right now, you know where to find me, and don't go waste your money buying books and all of this jazz because there is no magic potion for you. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Anywho, I was walking on the treadmill and I downloaded it, was starting the book, and I realized how little I actually knew about my female body. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Sorry, pardon me if you're Christian or something. No one taught me anything about my health or my menstrual cycle in health class. I literally thought that I'd just wake up one day and bleed, and that it would just be this magical thing that happened, and I was able to get pregnant at any time and any place of my existence. And that's just absolutely absurd and not true, by the way. So this is a health class with Haley, I guess, because I know you had the same exact thing in health class where all you learned was absolutely jack shit. So it was very beneficial for me to read this book in that sense. However, it didn't deliver what I wanted it to deliver, which was my period back. So it wasn't good for me in that sense. However, it taught me a shit ton about my womanly body and kind of enforced the idea that women are not small men. And if you haven't read the book Roar by Stacey Sims, she is my idol. Hi, Stacey. She wrote a book called Roar, and I really, really look up to her because she is a very practical doctor who does pay attention to the women's cycle, does pay attention to how exercise and nutrition and how our hormones change throughout our whole lifetime, but also accommodates, athletes and how we can implement lifestyle changes to support us and our menstrual cycles while training pretty heavily. So I highly recommend that book if you are an athlete or someone who works out a lot, because I do think that is a really valuable thing to know. However, this cycle syncing book was kind of the gateway to me learning a little bit more about my own body and the menstrual cycle. So I'm going to summarize what I learned essentially from that book and what phases you go throughout your cycle. So if you have a naturally occurring cycle, not on birth control, by the way, that's a whole other episode that I've gone over and you can go watch. But if you do cycle naturally, your body goes through 4 phases. The first is the menstrual phase. Go figure. This is where you're bleeding. And what's happening hormonally is your estrogen levels and your progesterone levels have dropped, causing your uterine lining to shed, aka your period. And this also means that you're not preggers. Congratulations, you did it. And so with cycle syncing, I strongly disagree with the idea that you can only, or should only rather, walk or do yoga on your period. I don't think that is true, and it's been proven that it's not true. You don't only need to be doing walking and yoga. You can still strength train, you can still perform well. There's so many other factors that play into your performance rather than just your hormones. Okay, it is very normal to be lower energy because, again, estrogen and progesterone have dropped, and this is likely the lowest energy phase of your cycle. So what I like to tell myself, I try to not tell myself in my perfectionist brain, and I like to tell my clients is it's okay to take a step back. It's okay for your lifts not to be the best, for you not to have PRs every workout. Okay, it's okay for you to walk instead of run. But I also think that the cycle syncing idea and just walking for a week can affect your results if you are on a fat loss or muscle gaining journey. Missing a week out of the whole month is not going to benefit you if you are on one of those journeys, because strength training is a very, very important part of that and your progress. So you don't need to be limited to walking and yoga, my ladies. It has been proven, and studies have shown this as well. So I will link them in the box below, or I'll put them up on the screen somewhere. And then let's move into your follicular phase. Your follicular phase is when your follicles on your ovaries are growing, estrogen is rising, and so is your energy levels. And in the book, it is said that if you're cycle syncing, this is your time to do your strong lifts, your PRs, your long runs, your long cycles, your long bicycles, like bicycle rides, not menstrual cycle, by the way. Oopsies. And while this is very true that you're gonna have more energy, you're gonna feel more like yourself, this is also where you're gonna be a little bit more extroverted. And even at work, you'll feel a little bit more extroverted, being more excited for meetings, more creative. I definitely feel this in my business and in content creation. I'm a lot more creative and less stumped in my content creation when I'm in my follicular and ovulatory phase. And there is also, physiological differences between your follicular and your luteal phase that can support that. But honestly, it's mostly an energy thing. And a lot of women complain that, you only get to feel good 1 week out of the month. And usually the follicular week is that week. Okay. But again, you don't need to be going balls to the wall in your follicular phase because you feel good. Take your rest days too. You need rest in your follicular phase. And we move into the ovulatory phase. This is where estrogen has peaked and a little baby egg is released into your little system to be fertilized or not. And this phase is actually the shortest. It's about 3 days. And it happens mid-cycle, and that differs between women and women. Personally, I ovulate on day 17 to 18. Some people ovulate on day 14 to 15. It's not smack dab in the middle of your cycle like some people think. It differs from person to person, but this is where your estrogen peaks and also your energy level peaks as well. And so cycle syncing says that we need to be doing high intensity workouts during this phase, and yes, you'll probably feel a little bit more energized. However, this is also a phase where you might injure yourself. You're more likely to injure yourself, so that's also something to take into account. And there's so much information coming out nowadays of how your cycle affects your performance and your body and your immune system and everything like that I don't think cycle syncing really supports. And then we move into your luteal phase. Your luteal phase is post-ovulation. Little egg has been released, it's died, or it's been fertilized, either or, depending on your goals right now. I don't know, okay? I don't know if you're trying to get preggers or not. And this is where estrogen starts to decrease and progesterone starts to increase. So there's a little bit of a swap between estrogen and progesterone levels, where progesterone now becomes the dominant hormone. And progesterone is our calming hormone. It makes us feel a little bit more mellow, more introverted. Can also affect our body temperature, so it does increase a little bit in our luteal phase, and you will feel that in your workouts. So it has been shown that women reach the point of exhaustion quicker in their luteal phase. Their heart rates are higher in the luteal phase. I have 100% experienced that. especially in the latter half of my luteal phase, where my heart rate is just through the roof on mundane things. Like I'll just be doing my regular lifting and my heart rate's like 160. But again, it's not a thing of changing your whole workout routine just because you're in your luteal phase. Like you don't need to do that. You just need to be aware that this is going on, that you might be a little bit weaker and you might reach the point of exhaustion quicker. And that's okay. You don't need to completely shift your focus from weightlifting and your sport to yoga and stretching. Like, I just don't agree with that, and it's just not a sustainable thing to be changing everything about your day-to-day life and your workout routine every week just based on your menstrual cycle. Okay, so just be aware of where you are in your cycle, and that will be good enough for you to just navigate where you are, navigate your progress, and just be gentle with yourself that, you know what, Haley, I might not lift very well today. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to just, not do it because, the book says I can't. I'm just going to keep on keeping on and be gentle with myself. I've also had some times where I've had the biggest lifts of my life in my luteal phase, and it really just depends, again, on different factors: my sleep, my nutrition, my stress management. There's so many other things that go on rather than just my hormone fluctuations. So as much as women are not small men, I think there's also a little bit of a disconnect between like women are complete aliens and need to be doing different things, which I don't agree with. So that's kind of my 2 cents on cycle syncing in the terms of implementing it into your workout routine. And of course, I've also learned through the book is there's also different foods that you should be eating in accordance to the phase of your cycle, which I have something to say about, by the way. So in the book, it says that you need to be eating specific foods in accordance to each of the 4 phases of your cycle. Now, there are a few problems I see with this and a few things that I have experienced doing this whole cycle syncing thing. And one, my grocery list was huge. My grocery bill was even bigger, and the recipes, I just didn't know what to do with all of this stuff. And half the things on each of the lists I didn't like or genuinely enjoy, and I'm not going to force feed myself to eat something that I don't like. I'm sorry. I am a health professional who advocates for actually enjoying your food. Food is fuel, but it's also meant to be enjoyed, people. So please don't eat things that you don't like just out of sake of health. I don't think that's necessary at all. So that was a couple of the problems that I saw with myself and through the book. Now, there are some guidelines that I do follow, and I would say that I loosely cycle sync. I wouldn't even call it cycle syncing with my nutrition. I just focus on different macronutrients because I am craving different things in my luteal phase, and you guys will probably relate to this. If you have like cravings right before your period, PMS cravings, you guys are probably craving like chocolate, more fatty foods, more carby foods. I do tailor my diet to accommodate that, right? So I eat more satiating foods, a lot of potatoes and warm foods, because progesterone does slow down your digestion. So you guys probably have noticed, the period poop thing, that I'm gonna debunk something for you right now. Hold up, guys. Period poops happen because progesterone slows down your digestive system. There's quite a big drop in progesterone and estrogen when your period starts, hence the blood starts. And that is why you have period poops. It's because now it's just dropped down the dam and now you're pooping on your period, and now it's just waterworks. So a little bit of TMI, but that's why it happens. So you learn something new every day, right? To go back on my nutrition in my luteal phase, I do kind of focus on more homey cooked, more comforting meals like soups and stews, cooking more of my vegetables because I do know that my digestion is a little bit more slowed down. So I help my body digest food by cooking it and processing it a little bit more outside of my body, rather than eating a bunch of raw broccoli that my digestive system is now like crying at me because it has to digest a bunch of this fibrous foods. Okay. So there are a little bit of guidelines that I like to follow, but it's nothing strenuous because, again, like, I come from a past of disordered eating and really, really restrictive dieting. That did not end well. So I'm not a huge fan of meal plans or being really strict with my nutrition. I do follow an 80-20 rule because, life is meant to be lived and you're meant to enjoy food, right? So that is another thing about cycle syncing that, again, I don't know. If it works for you, that's awesome. But these are just kind of the findings that I found when I was doing cycle syncing and trying to do that whole thing. It was just really, really time consuming for me, and I got other things to do with my time. And that also translates in my coaching style. So if you guys don't know, I'm a online PT and nutrition coach. I do implement hormone health because it is very important to me. It's very important for me, for my clients to know about their bodies, because we've grown up just not knowing anything about our womanly bodies. We're just taught that we're small men when we're not. So I do teach all of my clients about their cycle and, give them tips and tricks on how to navigate their cycle, how to navigate period cravings, balance hormones so you're not having ravenous PMS symptoms and cramps, because that's not normal. It's a sign that your body is out of whack and your hormones are also out of whack. So shameless plug, if you need coaching, there will be a link in the description box below. Anyways, that'll wrap up this episode of the Wild Wellness Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed everything cycle syncing. If you want to see more about hormone health, menstrual cycles, training on your menstrual cycle, DM me, give a comment, do a rating. Please, I beg you to rate my podcast. I need good reviews. And until next time, my cool cats and kittens.